All right. Mrs. Aishat Agbaje Okwade, Executive Secretary, Latif Jakonde Leadership Academy. Aishat Olabimpe Agbaje Okwade began her illustrious career in 2014 as a legal and administrative assistant at Kimberly Wayne and Diamond Solicitor in London. In 2015, she joined the Hayes Group in London as an accomplished project officer. The same year, she was honored as one of the promising young beneficiaries of the prestigious King's Trust, formerly Princess Trust, Enterprise Grant, Mentoring and Support Program. She then served as the accounts manager at the Challenge in Waterloo, London, where she fostered enduring and impactful relationships with marginalized young people, local authorities, and community organizations. Aishat previously served as the Senior Special Assistant for Development Partnerships and Economic Planning to the Governor of Lagos State. Prior to that, she was a Special Assistant to the former Governor of Kaduna State and alumna of the Kashim Ibrahim Fellowship. Currently, Aishat is the Executive Secretary of the Lagos State Latif Jakonde Leadership Academy, on a notable program dedicated to mentoring the next generation of exceptional young Nigerian leaders. Aishat is also an accomplished author and researcher, with her work on gender equality and public service recognized and discussed at international platforms, including Equality Now. She founded the AA Initiative, a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting the reintegrating orphans and vulnerable children across Nigeria. She has helped over 5,000 individuals to date, driven by the belief that she represents not just herself, but an entire generation. Aishat continues to inspire others through her unwavering dedication to social change and community empowerment. Ladies and gentlemen, our facilitator for today, Mrs. Aishat Agbaje Okwade. So a round of applause. Just do your emojis. Thank you very much. So, ma'am, you have the floor now.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Hi. So forgive me today. I'm a bit clumsy, you know. It's really nice to meet the squad. I do this all the time. And I like that we always have different, people, different perspectives, different understandings, and it's always good to engage. So I'm looking forward to this session. I'm going to be in and out a bit, but thankfully I have a bit of help for this session. And I'm very excited that you guys will get to, experience that or see that or hear that rather. Please, if you can't hear me, I hope everyone can hear me. I know that you guys will be joining late, more people will be joining later, as well as it goes on. So it's once again, it's my pleasure, absolute pleasure to be here. I'm so thankful to the, Electoral College team who have dedicated their lives to, giving you guys this experience, and it's so pleasing. I'm thankful to the executive director Kunle, Mr. Kunle, for this exceptional work and the consistency he has put into this. So I'm really, really grateful for this opportunity. It's a similar platform to the organization I lead, which is the Latif Jakonde English Academy. Just in case you've never heard of it, it's very similar. We do great work, similar work like this, and just preparing the youth, young people for the future, whether the future of work, the future of leadership, and really taking charge of their communities, building stronger environment. So today, for the first time, I think maybe you guys are lucky ones, lucky cohort. I'm doing the lecture a bit different today, and I would be having some support. So firstly, my name is Aisha Agbaje Okwade, Executive Secretary, like as introduced, of Latif Jakonde English Academy. So I work, it's an agency of the Lagos State government. And today I will be, the landmark cohort, thank you for that. Wow, I love that name, Landmark. Someone needs to explain it to me later about how you came across, landmark. Although when we hear landmark, I know you know what we think about the beach and all of that. The venue. So you have to share with me. I would like to hear why you resulted to that name. But before doing that, so yes, I have with me three amazing fellows of the Latin Jackson Day Leadership Academy who have also who are doing great things. Firstly, I have with me that will be joining me in this, Titi Lokpe Anifowoshe. You would meet her shortly. I have Emmanuel Shobamowo, and then I have Damilola Amusa. So it's going to be very, very interesting conversation today that we're going to be having. And once again, I'm very excited to be here. So today we are focusing on responsibility before recognition. And I think for young people, this was important because for young people, when most times when we think about leadership, we just believe that, it's when I'm governor, or it's when I'm president, or it's when I'm the CEO, or it's when I'm leading. No, you are leading in big positions. You're leading from wherever you are right now. You're leading even as a court, in the as a court of the electoral college. You're leading from wherever you are right now. And we young people sort of find themselves is the word subjected to it a bit, because growing up we have big dreams. We have admirations for a lot of people, and then we can't wait to get there. It's the eagerness, it's the energy to get there that we forget that actually is the little things that from where we are right now that count. And it's a little detail from where we are right now that can elevate us or escalate us quickly, or pivot us rather to our goals and our dream a lot faster, a lot safer than we imagine. So this one, I wanted you to focus from doing big things from your small space right now. And that's why so this is what this discussion surrounds, right? Understand that your small space can create big things for you. So it's again responsibility before what? Recognition. So today's conversations will move across four distinct perspectives. I'll set the core leadership framework, right? But the true substance will also come from our LGLA fellows who I've mentioned their name, and they would, I'm sure they would impress you all. Who will share how they live through, this leadership thing. They will share unfiltered insights from their field, from the various, path they are on, or the various journey they are on. And afterwards, we'll turn the floor over to you as usual, and open discussion and reflection. So there are four conversations again, like I had said, that would happen here. So this side talks about, leadership begins before a title. And it's so important. And I think every year, and I'm sure the Electoral College team can attest to this, is I say that leadership starts from family. It starts from what is at home. It starts from what is happening currently at home. A lot of you are firstborns. That's a leadership position, right? Have you heard I'm sure you would constantly hear your parents say, you have to look at your siblings are watching you. You have to behave because your siblings are following what you're doing. Do you understand that that's a leadership position? That is the first lesson or the first examples we have in our lives as leaders. But we don't count it as something tangible, whereas it's hugely impactful. Even in terms of family life or marriage, I say that, for even young people that want to get married, I'm like, how a man behaves or a woman behaves towards their family is how they'll behave towards you. Who they are, their leadership style with their families is how they would lead even a country, right? So it's very, very important. Again, you know, they say don't despise, you know, the small beginnings. So today's conversation moves across 4 different perspectives, like I said. I will set the core leadership framework for this discussion, but true substance will lie in what our fellows would say, you know, who have also lived through, you know, a lot of this and also seen, you know, a lot of what has happened, and they've had practical examples from each of it, you know. And when we talk about leadership, we often think that it's an abstract theory. You know, we look at it as a big thing. Sometimes we confine it to maybe textbooks or even political manifestos, or we confine it to politics. That's even the worst part of it. But you know what I have said? It starts straight from family, it starts from home life, it starts from upbringing. So real leadership is defined by before recognition even comes. And I want you to remember that. And I'll explain further as we get to the end why. You know, we'll examine leadership not as a status, you know, to achieve, but as a daily practice, which is what I have said. It's a daily thing where responsibility is always preceding recognition. So you cannot have recognition first before responsibility. You have to have a strong sense of responsibility before you have recognition. Sorry, guys, please just pause for me a moment there whilst I. Sorry, just give me a moment. I'm just trying to change my connection now because I'm going to cut off. So I'm trying to change my device before. Okay, so we're good to go now. I'm on another connection. That's good. All right. So as I was saying, so we sort of assume we sort of want recognition because it's the sweetest thing, you know, before responsibility. But actually, the number one of the my first rules of being a leader is first you're selfless, and secondly, or rather, they're both on the same level, is that you have a sense of responsibility, and not a sense of responsibility to just self alone but to others, right? So the responsibility comes before recognition. So if you're not in a space whereby you're responsible for yourself right now or for even others, recognition will be very difficult to attain. And rather, when you attain it, you will struggle with keeping it. You have no value, you know, in that space. So we have politicians who are like, what value are these people bringing? That's because they've managed to get recognition before even understanding the reasoning of responsibility. So many people wait for it, and I do not want you to wait for it. And like I said, it happens from your home, it happens in the school, it happens in your community, you know, and those of you that are in one political space or the other, you know, it happens in your different, I know in your politics is important to me because I get a lot of questions about what happens when there are no platforms, or who gives you opportunity for you to do this. It's a platform. How no one gives it to you. That's why volunteering is how I started my own leadership experience, because no one was going to give it to me, right? No one chooses to give it to you on a la carte. Rather you go out saying that, you know what, I'm going to do this for free. I'm going to volunteer the skills and abilities I believe I have as a young person. So from that volunteering, I am spotted for greatness, you know. So you find that a lot of young people, there's something called the White House interns, right? You have to intern, you have to give freely. before it can come back to you, before you can be spotted. So volunteering and community right now, it's very key in the discussion of leadership. So the question is not whether you lead, right? Sorry, I can't just. So the question is not whether you lead. The question is what your leadership is teaching people. And this also links back into our motto at LGLA, which we just newly adopted. What changes because of you? What would change because of you? Who would change because of you? How will change happen because of you? And which is very key in our discussion today. So I'll move to the next slide, please. Thank you. So, sorry, back to the other slide 3, please, if you don't mind. So just a final note, many people wait for, like, just to, recap or summarize what I have said, many people wait for, formal appointments or an election win or a title before they begin acting like leaders. You can start, you are leading right now. Leadership begins in micro arenas being home, family, community right now, and in your different political environments, long before anyone hands you power. So you start with managing family expectations, start with organizing a study group, start with coordinating your community, and which is what something in detailed my core facilitators would also speak on. Before people follow your manifesto, they have already evaluated your conduct, whether you believe it or not. It's in the rooms where you are not that they will speak about you. So now we're talking about leadership in the ordinary life, right? So there's the quiet, uncelebrated nature of true character building. When you're building your character, no one applauds, right? No one applauds. But when that character that you've built now finds its way where you've attained recognition, that's when the applause come. We cannot expect applause when we've just put the palm oil in the pan for it to be, boiling, or when we just put the salt. It is when we've made the cooking, when the cooking has been finalized, is when we should expect some sort of applause. And we'll then get the applause because the soup is sweet, right? That's the way your ordinary life works. Influence operates silently. Long before you step into a political platform, people are observing how you handle minor commitments. Again, including family. They are observing how you treat others, including your colleague. So if you come on this place and you are the person that is late and always late, and you think that you're doing yourself a favor, and you think that when maybe Mr. Kunle Ibi gets a call saying that, give me one young person that can work in my campaign, do you think it's you they will call? Of course not, because you've shown signs that you're not prepared for that task ahead. So what you do when you don't think anyone is watching is actually when someone is watching. So you have to be very mindful of that. You have to be mindful of how you handle those minor commitments, how you treat others, how consistent you remain when there are no cameras or applause. Leadership starts in, those uncelebrated moments. Like I said, influence operates. Oh God. Okay, they've moved quickly. Please go back. Like I said, influence operates long before the titles appear. Remember that. And something that's written here that I think it's a key thought, and I'm sure you guys can read it, is before people follow your manifesto, they study your manners. They know who you are and they know what you are. So I think, I've mixed this up. This is Emmanuel's slide. So Emmanuel, so right now, I've stepped too far. So I want to call Emmanuel, who will take you through the rest of the slide. So Emmanuel is leading in his own various, space right now, in his own various community. He's done several projects. He also even happens to be from the civil service. And he's also, a fellow of the Latif Jacobin Leadership Academy. And I must say, these three young people got the fellowship, stepped into the fellowship after, I think we had 11,000 applications. So they've gone through a rigorous, selection process. So I think they're worth listening to. So Emmanuel, I've stepped in a bit, but please carry on. So I want to introduce Emmanuel to the floor. And then what I will do is I will summarize and then I will end as well. So Emmanuel, please go forward now. Please welcome Emmanuel.
Thank you very much, Ma. Good evening, everyone. My name is Emmanuel, like you already know, Emmanuel Ayodeji Shobamo. Just a quick background of myself. I'm a public servant. I work in civil service. I specialize in the intersection of urban development, regulatory compliance as it relates to partnerships and strategic engagements and the good stuff like that. And interestingly, the name of my university is Landmark University. So I feel like this is really great. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity that my ES has given me to share this platform, and also to the electoral committee. Thank you so much. So without wasting much of our time, I'll just be taking us through leadership in ordinary life. All right, so when we speak about leadership, especially in the Nigerian context, I think it's safe to say that our minds immediately drift to, the convoys, the private jets, the grand speeches, the boardrooms, the official titles, the DSS security, and what have you. In a way, we have been conditioned to measure leadership purely by visibility. And one thing I've come to realize, and that being a fellow of the academy has reinforced in me, is that leadership is not, or real leadership is not a position. It's a daily practice. It's what you engage in daily. That is where the true character for leadership is built. So it's long before any title comes around. It's long before you are handed any office. That is when true leadership begins. So it's important for us to note that in the ordinary spaces that we find ourselves, that's where leadership begins. For example, there was a period while I was in the civil service. And if you know the civil service, sometimes your work environment can be conditioned in a way that will encourage you to be lazy a bit. But I just used to work. I used to show up, and you get remarks like, "Oh, you're taking it as if it's your father's work. You're doing it as if it's your father's business." Little did I know that this little moment, pocket of moments where I was showing up, was actually earning me recognition with my seniors, with my superiors. And I've been selected to sit in places way above my grade level. I've been selected as an ambassador for the Office of Transformation, Change and Innovation, amongst other things. So the point I'm trying to make is the little things that you do when nobody is clapping, when nobody is watching, are those things that sum up to you being an actual leader when it matters. Next slide, please. All right, thank you very much. All right, so it's important for us to note that in every unmonitored space, there's a simple pattern that is at play. And I like us to pay attention because everything I'll be saying from here on builds on that. And the first that we have to understand is that someone watches your choices. Every choice that you make, somebody is there watching you. The second is that someone copies your standards. And the third is that someone trusts your judgment. If you look at these three patterns, you would see that you don't need an office or a title for any of these things to happen to you. You don't need a title before people begin to watch you. You don't need a title before they begin to note your standards and they begin to copy it. And you don't need a title before someone trusts your judgment. So, like the ES rightfully said, before people follow your political manifesto, be rest assured that they have already studied your manners. It's important to note that influence operates long before titles ever appear. So our true character isn't built on a public stage. It is forged when nobody is clapping for you. And if your leadership requires a crowd to exist, then it isn't leadership, it is just performance. So this brings us to a grave danger in modern leadership, where we have to note that leadership becomes dangerous when influence grows faster than character, when public platforms outpace private discipline, systems are bound to collapse. What sustains you when you get to a position of leadership is those moments that you have put into building character in private. So private discipline is what keeps you in that office and builds a system around your discipline that sustains the office. It's important for us to note that it takes a person of integrity to build a system on integrity. It takes a person of discipline to build a system on discipline. If you are not disciplined, when you get to a place of office, it would show that there's discipline lacking. Next slide, please. So now, that brings us to the question of what separates a genuine leader from a mere position holder. Now, position holders are those that simply just demand respect because of their seat. Nothing more, nothing less. All they want for you is to know that they are the boss and acknowledge that they are the boss. They have no substance, they have no depth, they have no discipline to even maintain that office. All their identity is wrapped around the office. There is no discipline to sustain the office. While true leaders are those that command trust because of their character. And so leadership stands on quiet, unshakable values. And I'll just list 6 of them. The first is integrity. The second is ethical judgment. The third is empathy. Fourth is resilience. Fifth, responsibility. And then the 6th, selflessness. I'd have loved to, define these values, but I'd encourage us to just take our time in our private moments and look up what these things mean and then juxtapose them with how we choose to live our daily lives, how we choose to live our daily conduct. It is important for us to note that for you to have values, you have to be a person of value yourself. You have to be a valuable person. Values don't exist in a place that is, for lack of better words, rubbish. Values exist in a place that is valuable. All right. And so I would like to ask a question, just food for thought. Which of these values becomes hardest to protect when power, party loyalty, and public pressure enter the room? Which ones do you think becomes very hard to protect? And so I would, I would like to use this question to just give us like a call to action. Now, through the Lateef Jakande Leadership Academy, I have learned that a title, what it does is just simply amplifying who you are. All right. When you occupy an office, you don't automatically become a person of integrity. You become a person of integrity before you occupy an office. And if you are not a person of integrity, when you occupy an office, it shows. So this is one of the things that the academy has exposed me to, and I've learned to imbibe in my daily life that what an office simply does is that it just amplifies or makes who have been in private visible to everyone. So it's important to note that many of us, one day, we are going to hold positions of real power, whether it's political, corporate, or institutional. The important factor is that we're going to hold a position of power. So when that day comes, like I said, you won't suddenly become a person of integrity. You simply become the visible version of whoever you were when no one was watching. So in conclusion, here's my practical challenge to everyone listening. Let your character outrun your visibility. I would encourage us to find one area in our life this week where we have no title or no audience, and then we showcase our leadership and keep the same standard that we would keep as if the entire world was watching. Last question, just to round up. Like the ES rightfully said, before your manifesto, people have studied your manners. So I'd like us to ask ourselves, what have people learned from watching my manners? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel Ayodeji Shobamo. That was very insightful. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. So I think the next person now is please go to the next one, Damilola. So I'll introduce Damilola. So. So everyone can save questions. You can note them down, and then we'll take them at the end as usual. Well, I'm not sure if Lisa is here. If Lisa is coordinating that. Damilola, is Damilola here?
Oh, yes, I am. Yes, good evening.
Good evening, please start.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Good evening.
Yes, you can be heard.
Oh, thank you so much. So good evening, everyone. My name is Damilola Amusa Daudu. But first of all, I'd just like to start by saying thank you to ES Saishat Agbadio Kwande for the opportunity to be here. I see it as a great privilege actually to be here. And I would like to also thank the leadership of the Electoral College of Nigeria for organizing this, for investing in the youth, in leadership and capacity development generally. So I'll just give a bit of background to myself. I'm a trained biomedical scientist and currently a fellow of the Lateef Jakonde Leadership Academy. I remember when I received the topic that I was meant to speak upon today, that I'm meant to speak upon leadership as a fellowship laboratory. On a lighter note, it just crossed my mind that is it because I'm a medical laboratory scientist, that's why I'm giving fellowship as a laboratory. But and it got me really thinking now that what do we do really in a laboratory? A laboratory is where things are tested, where thoughts, where experiments are carried out, and you test processes over and over again. And I'd just like to start by saying, we've heard of various fellowships, we've heard of Mandela Washington Fellowship, we've heard of Yali, and so many fellowships all around. But I'd just like to start by saying that fellowships are not necessarily to design our CV or to have things we put on our CV. No, they are rather opportunities to improve our thinking and also to build capacity within ourselves. But to speak on this, I'll speak as a fellow of the Lateef Jakonde Leadership Academy and my experience there. Now, things have been tested, my standards, my habits, how I think has been challenged in that sense. So prior to the academy, that's the Lateef Jakonde Leadership Academy, ES spoke about the academy earlier in the session. You can read more about the academy. I used to run a diagnostic center, which I co-founded with my colleagues, and I was leading an online network across 6 continents. So
Good evening, Ma. I don't know if you can hear us, but we're having difficulties hearing you. I don't think we're hearing you at all.
So, Damilola, are you there? Because we can't hear you at all.
I think she has lost her connection. She's no longer on the
Okay,
call.
okay, so perhaps we'll just wait a moment for him. I think he's probably struggling with his connection. Or Titi Lokwe, are you okay with us just jumping to your part whilst Damilola just gets himself together? So can we skip to Titi Lokwe if you don't mind? What did you say, Titi?
I said it's not a problem.
All right, so Titi Lokwe will go now. So Titi Lokwe, please take it up. And then once Damilola joins back, he will continue from where he stops. I know it's raining, it's a bit wet today, so the network is a bit funny everywhere. So please bear with us. Titi Lokwe, please shoot.
Okay, thank you so very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Titi Lokwe Anifowoshi. I'm a lawyer by training and a fellow of the prestigious Latif Jakonde Leadership Academy. Before I begin, I'd sincerely like to appreciate our Executive Secretary, Mrs. Aishat Agbaje Okunade, for creating spaces that challenges us not just to learn, but to think, to ask questions, and to become better leaders. I remember the first session we had with her, and she said to us that we may never be able to know the kind of leader that we are, but by the time we leave the academy, we definitely be certain of the kind of leader we do not want to be. So I'd say again, thank you so much for trusting us with this opportunity to contribute to the conversation. I certainly am here not as someone who has mastered leadership, but as a fellow who is still learning and becoming. And that for me is what makes this conversation around leadership being more than a concept, particularly meaningful. When we talk about young people in political space, just like Emmanuel said, I think we sometimes romanticize leadership. We speak about it more from the angle of ambition, winning elections, getting appointments, being really influential, and having a seat at the table. I think that's like the most popular one, having a seat at the table. But my experience has taught me that the real test of political leadership begins we want, when what we want and what we believe in are not the same thing. I mean, you want A and then you believe in B. Uh, I've been in the political space since 2012 through student unionism at University of Ilorin in Kwara State. And one thing I've learned is that
I didn't get to go
loyalty is
at all.
important.
I'm just hearing him.
This is that one I said that that I said not tell me the interview.
That loyalty is important, but loyalty without conscience can be very dangerous. Political parties are built on discipline. They're supposed to be built on discipline. And you cannot become or belong to a political structure and then behave as though every single decision must conform to your personal preference. There are times when one has to give room for collective purpose, strategy, and discipline. And there is also a line every young leader must learn never to cross. We see this on Twitter, on Facebook all the time. I mean, we're even in that season right now where people find it difficult to discern between loyalty and blind followership, where people take on political affiliation like a religion. And for everyone listening to me, I think it's very important for you to be able to ask yourself these questions before you even delve into political leadership. The first question is, what who do I belong to? And then the deeper question should be, what do you stand for? Because usually political leadership will place you in situations where ambitions, values, and public interest will pull you in different directions. For instance, the most recent election we had in Osun State, the governorship candidate, who is now the returning governor, was in a different political party. And then now, for this last election, he moved to another political party. Because usually, political leadership would place you in situations where ambition and values, values, and public interest may pull in different directions. And so it is now for one to be able to ask, what exactly do you want to become? And when thinking of one's value, it may now be about what exactly are you unwilling to lose in becoming that thing that you count as being very valuable. And then the last question with regards to public trust will now be, who are those that will be affected by the decisions that you are making? The first one about what exactly do you want to become? And then the second one regarding what are the things that you are unwilling to lose? In LGLA, we call it our moral anchor. What exactly are those things that are non-negotiable? What are those things that if you choose to step them down, you are still okay? You can still say that you are still the same person who holds your integrity close to you. And one of the things that Latif Jakonde Leadership Academy, that's what we call LGLA, has done for me is to make these questions much more personal. Every quarter, we have our readings. Almost every other week, we have fireside chats and brown bag series. Now, at our readings, we get books. We get extracts from different books, talk about speeches from Obafemi Awolowo, speeches from Martin Luther King, books like poems from like Ozymandias. We get maybe around 100 or even close to 200 pages long books where we read them before the readings and then we reflect on them. We have fireside chats where we interact with personalities, giants in the private sector. I'm talking us sitting with Deputy Governor of CBN, us meeting with co-founder of Access Bank, us meeting with CEO of Union Bank, Airtel. Now it seems like I'm bragging, but really, we sit with them not for photo ops. We sit with them not for the meals and all that. But in these sessions or at these sessions, leadership for me stopped being something I simply read about or something or things I watch on the news or things I see on Twitter. It now started becoming things that I had to examine within myself. I'd never forget when the deputy governor of CBN requested for volunteers during our session with him. And a lot of us really wanted to volunteer because we thought he was just going to ask us questions. And then he asked, who is the imam? Who is the pastor? We had two other guys join them. And then he asked them to close their eyes and lay on the floor. Guess what? He then asked each of us to write down certain things. If we die at that moment, what would the 5 closest people to us say about us? And it was really profound because it got me thinking, really, what would my mom say about me? What would my husband say about me? What would they say about me? And I remember one of our colleagues saying something around, my flatmates would say that I don't wash my plate because LGLA is a fully residential program. So 30 of us stay in an apartment somewhere in Lagos, really highbrow place in Lagos. I also remember the Ozymandias poem written by Percy Shelley. That honestly is my favorite poem. It tells the story of a powerful ruler whose enormous monument was supposed to preserve his greatness. Yet, what remains is essentially ruin. So it has, and we see that metaphorically in some of our political leaders today. You stand so proud of what you think you have achieved, but in reality, what people can see isn't the same thing as what you can see. That's probably because you have a distorted idea or a distorted understanding of what your followers want. So for me, the lesson was that power is temporary, and what we do with power is what gives it meaning, not what we think entails that power for us. And then we had a conversation with leaders who had actually occupied positions of responsibility. And because for me, questions around leadership and from our sessions in Fireside Chat or Brown Bag series makes me ask myself other questions. I remember just 2 days ago, our ES asked us some questions. And I really could not even respond to the email immediately until after 2-3 days. So what does our conduct say about us when nobody is asking? And this is where I think young people in political space must be particularly very careful, including myself, because it is easy to become so focused on relevance that we begin to confuse access with impact. You know how we get to a place and for us, we're not even thinking about what we want to get out of those people, but about the pictures that our friends would see and the optics that we are able to, make to say, oh yes, you are close to the governor, you are close to the deputy governor, or all of that, We become so concerned about being invited into a room that we forget to ask what exactly we are bringing into the room. We become super desperate to belong that we gradually surrender the very values that made us worthy of belonging in the first place. At our leadership seminars, because we rotate MDAs every 3 months or 4 months. So at the beginning of our leadership seminar, the moderators ask us such questions around what do you think about probably the ministry or the office that you've just finished serving? And times over again, we discovered that the books that we read, the conversations that we've had in the lodge or at our seminars or at our Brown Bag series have actually subconsciously become our moral anchor, such that even whilst we are being ambitious, even whilst we are seeking influence, even whilst we are building relationships, or whilst we're trying to understand political strategy or learning the rules of the game, we try to think about what the things that we are willing to compromise or we are unwilling to compromise to get there. And the real test is whether one can hold on to them when they become very inconvenient. And perhaps one of the most difficult lessons I have learned at LJLA is that being a leader does not always mean being popular. There will be moments when doing what is right will make you unpopular. There will be moments when people will misunderstand one's decision. There will even be moments when silence is easier than speaking. But reflective leadership requires us to pause and ask, what does this moment require of me? What does it require of me? Not what will make everybody happy with me. I remember ES, when she took us the session on reflective leadership, we were there for about 4-5 hours. And we had a lot of back and forth, because we had a lot of back and forth. But at the end of the day, it's what does this moment require of you? And our experiences as fellows have also taught me this in very practical ways. I mean, it's really not. Hello? We have disagreed. We have disagreed. We have challenged one another. We have had moments when emotions ran high and moments when we had to learn that being right does not give us the permission to become disagreeable. Sometimes leadership is knowing when to speak. Sometimes it is knowing when to listen. In fact, sometimes it is also about knowing, it's also about standing one's ground. And sometimes It is also having enough humility to realize that your position may not be the only valid one. I remember during my one-on-one session, it's something like what they have in Big Brother Nigeria, where you go meet Big Brother in the room alone, but our own big sister is ES. And I remember she said, Titi Lokpe, learn to read the room. That is why I think that reflective leadership is so important. So before reacting, I usually ask, or I try to ask really, what happened? Why am I reacting this way? What value am I trying to protect? What is the consequences, or what is the consequence of my response? And perhaps, am I responding from a place of principle or from a place of ego? Again, let me repeat it. What happened? Why am I reacting this way? What value am I trying to protect? What is the consequence of my response? And am I responding from principle or from ego? And so if there are 5 things I hope that you leave this conversation with, for me, it should be first, that loyalty should always have conscience. That even though party discipline matters, political structures require loyalty and even collective strategy. But loyalty should never require us to surrender our moral compass. Second, beyond loyalty, one should always know what one stands for before one decides where one stands. In political spaces, you will constantly be presented with competing interests. The person whom you call your principal today may opt for another political lining or a political group tomorrow. But the question is, if what are our values? If our values are undefined, but then relevance will easily define them for us. The third one is ambition. Ambition is usually not the problem. If you ask me, I think it's unanchored ambition. There is nothing wrong with wanting to be influential. There's even nothing wrong with wanting to hold political office. I pride myself. I remember LGLA was that platform that made me to put a timing to what I want to become politically. And I'd say by 2046 or 48, I want to become the first female governor of Kwara State. So there is really nothing wrong with wanting influence, wanting office, or wanting to make impact. But the question is, what are we willing to sacrifice in pursuit of this ambition? And of course, the fourth one is, you will not always be popular. And not being popular does not mean that one is a failure. Sometimes leadership requires difficult decisions, restraint, disagreement, or saying what people do not want to hear. Sometimes leadership requires leading from the back. Leadership requires not being the one with the loudest voice. And lastly, your character must survive your ambition. The position will eventually change. Appointments will definitely end. I remember Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu told us that he had 238 days to go. So as of today, it's going to be 34 or thereabout to go. So political sessions will pass. Applause will also fade. But the person you become while pursuing those things will remain. So to everyone listening to me, let us resist the urge to lose our conscience in our quest for relevance. Because character is what gives leadership meaning. And when the applause stops, when the appointment ends, when the political season changes, there is one question that I believe every one of us should be prepared to answer. Just like Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu mentioned to us last week. What did your leadership stand for? What did your leadership stand for? And I'll leave you with an even more difficult question. When your political party platform, your personal ambition, and your public interest pull you in 3 different decisions, what will anchor your priorities? For me, it is going to be my values. And I do hope that it is going to be your values, not your ambition. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Titi. That was really good. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. I know there are lots of questions that have just been birthed from there, particularly with Titi saying, like, let your loyalty have conscience, let it carry conscience. particularly in the political circle. Let it carry conscience. So I'm going to let Damilola go now. So if you notice, we're telling a story. There's a story happening here. A story of, oh, okay, that you are a leader from wherever you are. Damilola is talking about how the sort of the formulation of character is from a laboratory, metaphorically from a laboratory sense, whereby you have to create it. In other words, you're going out to, get as much learnings as you can. You're getting the ingredients. You have to go to the market. It's a lab. It's test. It's an experiment. And then Titi is now talking about the ambition that when you find yourself in now political spaces, this is what you do. So I'm going to let Damilola go. It was supposed to be a story, but Damilola had to drop off. So Damilola will do us the justice and do some justice to what Emmanuel has also and Titi Lokpe has said, and then we'll take questions.
Okay, thank you so much, ESMA, for the opportunity. And I would like to say thank you also to the leadership of the Electoral College of Nigeria. Like I was saying earlier, my name is Damilola Amusa Daudu. I'm a biomedical scientist and also an entrepreneur. I'm currently a fellow of the Lateef Jakonde Leadership Academy, and it's a great privilege to be here. And I would like you to note that the first two fellows that spoke, you heard what's it called, substance from them. And that's to show you the quality of what we have at the Lateef Jakonde Leadership Academy. So today I'll be speaking about leadership as a fellowship laboratory. I'll just like to start by saying this, that I know many of us would have heard of various fellowships across the globe. You've heard of YALI, you've heard of the Mandela Washington Fellowship, and many others like that. And there's a way we as young people can see those things as good things just to decorate our CVs. But really, that's not the essence of it. The essence of these fellowships and this structured environment is to change how we think and change our perspectives on how we take responsibilities and how we approach life. And I'll be sharing these from the standpoint of my own experience at the Lateef Jakonde Leadership Academy. It's been 11 months and 20-something days in, and it's been a very, very wonderful ride. Before I joined the academy, I co-founded the diagnostic center with two of my colleagues. So, I used to call the shots in my organization and all of that. But coming into the academy, I remember in the first couple of days, we're given rules and standards to follow. It's not as if it was weird to me, but there was a pushback within myself. I'm like, Tammy, now you are the one that have to be punctual. There is a consequence for being punctual to, for not being punctual to an event. I remember our ES would say, being 14 minutes late, early is being late. That is, you must arrive at events at least 15 minutes before the event starts. That really shows structure and standards even in place. And, fellowships and becomes a leadership laboratory when they don't just teach leadership lessons, merely leadership lessons. It's a place where you have to, it becomes a leadership laboratory when leadership behaviors are repeatedly tested and practiced and challenged, because really, like you would say that it's until you squeeze an orange before you know really what the content really is about that orange. So as I said earlier, in my own journey in the Lateef Jakonde Leadership Academy, when I joined, I met 29 other people who were all equally as smart or even smarter than I am. I've always been in rooms where maybe, I'm really smart in comparison to others, or maybe first five, but meeting those smart people. And one of the things it did for me was it exposed me and taught me humility. And I would like to say this, that, for many of us on this call, we are part of the Electoral College of Nigeria. It's an opportunity to learn from your peers and learn from a different perspective. It grants you exposure. There's something Mr. Governor said recently in a mentorship session with him. And he said that if you don't learn to if you don't learn to listen more than you speak, you continue to make the same mistakes. So one of the things fellowships do for you, it gives you an avenue to learn from the perspective even of others. It gives you structures, it gives you standards, gives you what's called. It gives you an opportunity to learn from others. It also helps instill discipline. One of the examples we give is that before any session, maybe we want to have a fireside chat or a brown bag session, they will tell us our phones will be taken from us. They literally take our phones from us so we can focus during the course of the event. For the first couple of weeks, it was weird to me. I love pressing my phone in that sense, but it taught me something. I remember, I think it was ES also that said it, that there were some people that went to do internships at the Access Bank under Mr. Haig. And he said one of the things he observed from the fellows of Latif Jakonde was that they didn't have issues with their phones. And it showed it was called good quality in that sense. So it shows it's an opportunity to imbibe discipline in individuals. Can we go to the next slide, please? I just want to rush through because of our time. So, like I said earlier, the structure grants you consistency, it teaches you consistency. If you don't remember anything, this is one thing I will continue to hammer till we end this session is, if this fellowship, the Electoral College of Nigeria, what you have at the moment is an opportunity to learn from others, to expose your mind to the limited assumptions you had. I had limited assumptions, truly. I didn't realize I had such. I just thought, oh, I knew things, but learning from 29 other people, aside the fireside chat, the brown bag sessions we had, it's helped me to be humble, really. It was like a moment of self-reflection, even for me, to be humble and learn to listen even to others. So I'll read a scenario for us where standards are seeming convenient. So I'll just read it out that, I can see from the way we displayed our names, I can see APC, I can see ZLP, I can see ADC doing amazing things. So you are leading a youth political theme, and a close friend of yours violates the agreed rules during an event. Everyone wants you really to forgive the person as per your guy. Really, what would you do in such a situation? This scenario seems easier said than done, because he's your guy. He has violated a rule, it's something you can overlook. But there's something I've heard a couple of times during my journey at the Latif Jakonde Leadership Academy, how that's really a standard that you suspend for friends will eventually collapse for everyone. And this is quite reflective in all what we do in our daily lives, from be it you're a fellow at ECN or you are a leader in your own respective capacity. Standards are meant to be upheld even at all times, even when it seems inconvenient, because it is what are you protecting? Is it the relationship or the popularity or the standards in itself? So I would like us to go to the next slide, please. There's something I used to say maybe 2-3 years ago, and I believe it still holds true till now, that our society is a reflection. Our leaders today rather is a reflection of our society. It shows what the standards we've upheld as a people, what we value as a people, and this is one of the reasons why I want us to really appreciate the opportunity you have today as fellows or members of the Electoral College of Nigeria for this court, the landmark court. It creates really a structured environment where you are deliberately taught standards, you are, given a network to mingle with others, to learn from different perspectives, to also expose you to possibilities beyond what you have at this moment. So And these type of environments, really, I won't lie to you. The truth is, there are not so many in our climate today. You know, Emmanuel has spoken about this. ES has spoken about this. Titilope also has spoken about this. It is something you have as an individual has to be very, very intentional about learning, about imbibing these standards within yourself, about creating structures even around you. Because many of us would eventually go into what's it called, maybe get political appointments or even do great things in our own little spaces, co-found companies or get into various organizations. You have to be very intentional about creating structures that rewards responsibility around you and not just indiscipline. I'd like to end by saying this to everyone here that what you would get out of the Electoral College of Nigeria is not just dependent on the organizers alone. You also have a responsibility to play about imbibing characters and traits that are very, what's it called, that are ethical and necessary to build a proper leader. I hope you understand it. So you have to be very, very intentional about learning to listen more than you speak, learning to be humble enough to learn, learning to receive feedback. I remember during my one-on-one session with the ES, and she mentioned that, Dami, I believe you have much more to give in that sense. And I was like, oh, no, I just want to stay in my corner. I want to just, be in my own little space. But, learning to receive feedback is one of the things, there's something we are currently even doing at the Lateef Jakonde Leadership Academy. I've been talking about Lateef Jakonde Leadership Academy over and over again, how they were giving peer-to-peer review on each of ourselves. So you as an individual, as members of ECN, as fellows of ECN, you must be willing to take feedback also. You must be willing to intentionally learn these traits that has been put even into you. Also, the last thing I would just like to say is this: learn to pass on the torch. Find someone around you, find people around you that you also can replicate even these things you are learning. And it could be through your social media, it could be your neighbor, it could be your church member or mosque member, it could be your friend, it could be your family members in that. But find a way to pass on this torch to what's it called? These lessons you've been learning and these things you've learned in the past couple of months or weeks, pass it on even to those that are coming even behind you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Damilola. That was really good. So we'll just go to the I think it's the final few slides, which is the guided dialogue, so we can round up. So just to recap, we've had really great discussion, and Damilola is basically saying that once you get opportunities, such as even Electoral College Nigeria, you take up those opportunities, you take up space, you begin to, the way Frankenstein was created, you begin to add the different parts to create something livable, something breathable within yourselves, right? So, Emmanuel, so some of the discussions is, where did you first learn that, that people were watching your example? That's something to think about. Damilola is saying, what standard as fellowship forced you to take on more seriously? So which means, what have you taken on everything you've learned in this your opportunity to be part of the Electoral College Nigeria? What learnings have you been forced? Because basically you've had a mirror put against you. What learnings have you been forced? Because there's no point us doing speaking, and there's no action, from it. There's no next steps from it. Because what we do a lot in Nigeria, we become event planners, we become speakers, right? But we need to be more than that. We need to be doers. So what are you doing, and how would you be a doer? And Titi is also asking one of the hardest questions, which is like, what is the other value to protect in political spaces? What are you going to protect? Because Titi is asking also, Titi is speaking to your reality, but there's no point of your reality can't happen without, what Emmanuel has said based on your character. The reality can't also happen based on what Damilola has said, that if you don't go out to learn, to gain experience, to gain exposure, to volunteer, to see what great things are out there. So it can build your character to what Titilope is saying. So your anchors can be found. So what your deal breakers, can be formed, because we should all have deal breakers. Just the next slide. I want to open the floor for questions now, but I call this one final encouragement. Based on everything that has been said, leadership is action, leadership is responsibility, leadership is influence, leadership is value, leadership is legacy. Leadership is more than a concept, which is what the topic that the Electoral College has always given us. It is how you show up when no one is watching you, and when you even least expect it. Leadership is not an abstract concept. It is, or a title, or just a business card, I'm a leader, or it is an action, responsibility, influence, values, legacy. It's defined by how you show up every day in your daily lives and how you serve the people. Titi also retouched on how we've now started asking the critical question at even Latif Jakande Leadership Academy, that what changes because of you? What changes because of you? And we believe that, you need to stop pointing fingers at others, right? But rather start pointing at yourself. What am I going to change because I'm present? Just in closing, be the leader who serves selflessly, listens intentionally, leaves an enduring legacy. Be that leader. Service can never be undermined. Listening, can never be undermined. Also know when to leave. If you stayed in a position for a long time, know when to leave. That's part of leadership. If a leader does not know when to leave a position, then there's a problem there. We have people that sit in position for span of years, and know when to leave, know when it's enough, and know when there's a new challenge ahead. Build a legacy that can't be tainted by anybody. So thank you today, cohort 20. Now I will open the floor for questions. My co-host will join me for questions. So I'm sure they all have their videos on, so you can see their faces. So just throw questions and then we'll take from there. So I will hand over back to the moderator of the session now. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. I believe that everybody has learned not only the concept of leadership, how they can better improve it, how they can better put it to good use, or being given a call to action. And that is really beautiful. And you mentioned that you want to know why we call this the landmark cohort. It's because we've never had this kind of session before. We've never had more than 2 facilitators in our class. So I believe you've done that for us. You are the one making this the landmark cohort. So thank you very much once again, man. Thank you for the facilitators. So I'll be handing over to Idris Kende, who will be handling the question and answer session. So if you have any questions, I believe we have a lot on our minds that we want to clear up. So do well to ask them.
Hi.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, we can.
Hi, Aisha. My name is Sarako Samsudin. I'm the head of Protocol Electoral College. It's nice having you here.
Hi.
Pleasure. Nice having to connect with you again. And to buttress why we call this cohort the landmark cohort, it is our 20th cohort. And as you know, Electoral College has trained almost 20,000 participants so far. So it's a landmark cohort for us. And having you on board at this time, it's a privilege. And for you bringing up your Institute Fellows on board to makes it a double check for our landmark celebration of this cohort. Once again, on behalf of Electoral College, we'd like to say thank you to you for adding the icing on our landmark cohort. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, the facilitator, for this wonderful and insightful section. May we call on Adedayo Akinfalo-Jimmy to ask your question. Your hand is up.
Oh, yeah, apologies. Can you hear me properly? I'm on the underground, so there's a lot of noise in the background. Yeah, so my question is, what would you say the differences are between leadership and management? I'm thinking, I know management more or less is about persuading people.
Sorry, I didn't hear
leadership
that too well.
Sorry,
Between
I'm on the
leadership and
underground,
what?
so there's a lot of noise.
Yes. Do you want to write out the
Sorry.
question?
What would you say are the differences between leadership and management? Can you hear? Sorry.
Leadership
Hello?
leadership
Yeah.
management and what, sorry?
I believe he's asking the
Can you
difference
hear me?
between leadership and management now.
Hello, can you hear? Can you say hello?
I can hear perfectly. I'm just not catching Mr. Adedayo's question.
Maybe you write it at the chat box for us to be able to get what you are asking clearly.
Hello.
All right. So sorry, I believe the question was, what is the difference between leadership and management? Are there any differences between them? I think that was what the
Okay.
question.
I think you should repeat that question. I'll just so to ensure that he's actually asking that, or it rather puts it in the chat box. You can't have, leadership and management. I think they're the same thing. You have to know how to man. And I'm guessing by management, he's talking about the organizational, management structure sort of thing. But there's also leadership in that, right? There are no difference. I think rather management would you say, a symptom of leadership? So how you manage is, it's a story. But I also want my co-facilitators, if they have anything to add to that question, they can shoot to what I have said. So does any of my Titi Lokwe, Damilola or Emmanuel, do you have anything to add there to that answer? Okay, so I don't think they do, because I see that they are quiet. But in essence, they don't overlap, but they don't overlap. They overlap sometimes, but they are not the same, but they have similar facets in them. So let's say the management will focus on the execution of something, but the leadership is the entire direction and purpose of the thing. The leadership is the vision, right? The management is the implementation of that vision, right? So yes, like someone says, an element. So the management is the practice, of the leadership in a certain, context. For example, the management can be creating the budget plan, creating this, creating that. But the leadership would be looking at the vision, looking at the purpose, looking at the ambition of that vision, looking at the priorities, the beliefs and values. That would be the vision, that would be the leadership. Whereas the management is just the implementation process of that vision and of that leadership. So that's the entire essence of it. They don't overlap, but they have the same, they work the same, they do the same. They complement each other. They are elements of each other, but you can't have one without the other. Does that help, Mr. Abidapo? I hope that helps. So, next question, please.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ma. So, is there
Is
any
there
other
another
person that has?
question? Sorry? Any other
Club
question?
member doesn't have any question. Okay, another. Adedayo. Mr.
Yeah, sorry.
Adedayo, go ahead with
I'm
your
sorry.
question.
I'm on the underground. I don't know if you can hear me. Yeah. Yeah. What I'm trying to say, how can a young leader practically balance party discipline and public conscience when their parties kind of directly conflict with public interest?
How do you what? Sorry, say that again.
So how can a young leader practically balance party discipline with public conscience when their party's directive directly conflicts with public interest? Well, I'll put it in the
How
chat.
can a young leader balance practical?
No, party discipline.
How do you balance party discipline? Okay, party
with public
discipline
conscience,
with
their own
public conscience, with conscience.
Yes, yeah. When especially the party's directive conflicts with the public interest.
Particularly if there's a conflict, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, all right. So I think Titi might have spoken about that. So what I would do is I would try and reframe your question for you, which is party discipline matters, but conscience sets the outer boundary. So, but I want Titi to take that because that falls into the conversation that she's had already. And then I would add to that. I remember something she said that loyalty should not be blind obedience. It should not be your loyalty should have conscience. So Titi, please turn on your video and please just add to that question. Answer that question, then I'll just round it.
Thank you so very much. Yes, ma. So first of all is before you even join a political party, yeah, you have to be a leader in your own right. You do not necessarily have to hold positions at your ward level or state level, but you have to have your own moral anchor. You have to be a leader of your own self. There is something in law where we say, Nemo that quod non abet. You cannot give what you don't have. So if you do not have a strong conviction, if you yourself you don't have a clarity of what your own moral anchor are, what set of values you hold strongly to, there is no way you won't be easily swayed. So first and foremost, even if you are keen on participating in politics, you first of all, of course, have to align with a political party that leans towards your own ideology. Now, within the political party, there are different subsets. There are definitely going to be times when the leanings of the parties may not align with yours. But like I mentioned earlier, you must have sets of non-negotiables that you know that you are never ever going to cross. And of course, you have to be politically intelligent and you have to be morally awake. We should never forget that most of the things that happens in a political party, they are seasonal. So, for example, we are we're gearing towards the 2027 elections. And the things that are of utmost importance to the political party today, I promise you, may not be of importance to the same political party in the next 10 months or in the next 12 months. So, what exactly are your own values? What are the things that you are never going to cross? And what is your end game? What is your long shots? What are your own long-term goals with your participation in the political party? So I believe that if you are able to get clarity on these certain things, you would know what negotiations you are going to be able to make and the things that you know that you are never going to, subdue just because of that current situation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Titi. I'm not sure if any other of my facilitators has anything to add, but ultimately, right, I think that, guys, it's not a do or die affair. If that thing does not fall in line with your character or your conscience, walk away. There are going to be 1,000,001 opportunities, but don't be in fear to walk away. I have walked away from positions that did not align with my values and character. You don't have, that is not the only opportunity that would come to you. Let's say the average lifespan is, let's say 70 years, right? In 70 years, that is not going to be the only opportunity. So don't do trade-offs. And as something as Titi has said, is that this political thing is so temporary because the political terrain is so short-lived because it leaves and governance stopped, right? So why do you want to just have just 5 months experience or 5 months change who you are for a 5 months process when there's a lifetime of governance to happen, right? So those, the loyal, the mature, these things can coexist, but they are not equal. So don't equalize them, right? Because don't equalize them. Party loyalty is important, but it should never be supersede your constitutional duty and public interest. Public interest is number one. If the public interest continues, you somehow.
All right, everyone. I think our facilitator has lost our connection. So I don't think we have any other questions. Or do we have questions? Some of our fellows are staying in class. They can answer those questions for us. All right, I think there's one question in the chat box. So I would like one of the fellows to take this place. From Isaac Promise. He says, just to say, in the Nigerian scenario, we have more of office holders rather than leaders because what I've gotten to understand today, most of our leaders aren't really being in character rather than living examples. So how can one stand out with a lot of influences from both government and private individuals? Mr. Emmanuel, do you want to take? Okay, I think Ms. Damlola is already answering us.
Okay, yes. So regarding this question, I remember I asked this question to what's it called? Someone recently, and the answer really helped me navigating this. And the first thing the person said is, Dami, you must know this. Politics should not be a career for you. Politics is not a career. That is, if you want to go into office or do such at any point in time, it must be from the standpoint of service. Do you have something to offer for the people? I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So coming from that perspective, if you having something to offer to the people, I'm not saying politics as a career, and this even relates back to even to the question I was asked earlier, in which you would also have your own non-negotiables. You have something to fall back on because that is even truly your core from the onset. You have something to hold on to. Should not be first known, quote and unquote, as a politician. So what's it called? How do you differentiate yourself? Because you have influences from here and there. You should first of all know your non-negotiables. Number two, do not make politics a career. Have something outside of your what's it called, your political ambition that you are known for, or that's your what's it called, producing value or a service for in that sense. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So it's when you're coming from this standpoint, it is easier to stand out with a lot of this because now you're known for core competencies in what you do. They know that, oh, this person, Isaac Promise is known for so and so. She is the best, or she is the best. Yes, he's the best at what he does in his own space. So it's coming into politics, or it's coming into what's it called? All of this from the place of service, not just from the place of what you want to acquire. So when you come from this perspective, it helps a bit to filter things out. Don't get me wrong. There are things you need to be morally and quote unquote politically aware of in what's called dealing with all of this. But I think first of all, you must know this, that do not make politics necessarily a career in that sense. Have something you're known for. When you're going into any of this for any position or what, have it that you have something to offer to the people. It's service first of all to the people, and that's it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So I missed out on the question. Sorry, I'm at work. So my colleagues are here and everybody's just always teasing. So I've missed out on the rest, but are we going to the next question?
Sorry, I believe we do not have any other questions. We've taken ones in the chat box. Okay.
Sorry, good evening.
So I can't see the chat box, by the way, because once I logged out, everything disappeared. But yes, Emmanuel is speaking, yeah.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
So, good evening. I just want to add to what Damilola has already said, and I'll just start with this quote that says, if you don't stand for something, you would fall for anything. I believe when you are talking about how you can stand out when you have influences from both government and private individuals, you are not referring to a positive influence in that sense. You are probably referring to something negative, something that spurs you to do what is not in the interest of the general public or even properly represents the office that you have been called to serve. So like I said with the quote, if you don't stand for something, you would fall for anything. And like Damilola rightfully said, you have to first define what your values are. What do you stand for? I'll give you a typical example. I have a colleague, her name is Shola. When you want to get the job done, everybody knows to ask Shola. When you are trying not to go by the book, everybody knows not to ask Shola. You can't ask Shola for favors outside anything that is according to the rule books. So you know to avoid who Shola is. And that kind of informed the kind of person I became. I don't do things because somebody is trying to influence me to do it. I do it because that is what is right. And I'll just leave you with this biblical quote if you believe in faith and all of that. There's a scripture that says, anyone who knows what is right and does not do it, unto him it is a sin. As a leader, you have to understand that you are required to do what is right at the right time, all the time, consistently. That is what makes you stand out, and that is what makes you a person of influence. Also, just to wrap up, you have to understand that being in a position of leadership, like what we have been discussing all day long, is that you yourself are a person of influence. When you begin to view yourself from that aspect, you begin to move differently, knowing that your actions can spur people to do something better. So if you stand for what is correct, you can actually influence others to stand for what is correct and not the other way around.
Thank you so much, sir. And looking at it, I don't think anybody still have any other question to ask. Okay, I'm seeing Isaac Promise again, raising up his hand. If you have anything to say, quickly ask your question. Isaac Promise, ask your question.
Yeah, can you hear me? It's not a question. I've understood everything well. I've digested, and I appreciate the session today was so good. I enjoyed it. And then what I get to understand, so let me just add a little bit. Sorry to take your time. I have a lot of aspirations of joining this leadership academy. And then most of us now, we don't have value. We don't have value to give out. At least that's why most of us are being used by these politicians or these leaders we call. Plenty of us are just out there looking for what to just at the point is just what we get at the present time now, not really thinking of what will happen tomorrow. What are we going to be asked or accountable for? What are we going to give out to other people? Rather than thinking about that, we just face what's there, and then with that mentality, they just give us what we can get at that point, use us, and then leave us. So honestly, this session today has really brightened up my mind. I'm just happy. Thank you for today.
Thank you so much for acknowledging that. And we believe all what we have learned so far from the college is going to be part of us. Any other question? If there's any other question, Miriam, can you continue?
All right, thank you very much, everyone. It
So,
has truly been.
so sorry, I see that there is another question in the chat box, but I would let my co-facilitators answer this whilst I step out. But I see that, sorry, Miriam, I see that there's another question.
Okay, the question is who can join the academy? Okay.
So my co-facilitators will answer this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, so any person of a Nigerian citizen between age 25 to 35 with proven track records of impact in their communities and work experience can apply to be a part of Latif Jakande Leadership Academy. But let me just put this Jara. You have to ensure that you are not just an AI leader, a leader that is just all about the optics, because the recruitment process of Latif Jakande is one of the most rigorous that I have ever experienced in my life. It's going to take around 4 months or thereabout. So you will be tested through essay, interviews, policy papers, what have you. But if you sure have what it takes, because it is very, very meritocratic, it is deeply meritocratic. So if you have what it takes, be rest assured you are going to get him. Thank you.
Oh, we can't hear Madam Titi any longer. I don't know
Yeah,
what
I'm
is
done.
happening.
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Miriam, you can take over and let's see how to run.
All right. All right, since we do not have any other questions, I'd really like to thank Mrs. Aishat on behalf of all of us from the Electoral College, the students, the management. It has really been an educative and enlightening session. And I believe that this would not only, this is not just an education, it will also push people to do better when it comes to leadership and also seek for more ways for them for us to serve and to bring about change in our own community as well. So thank you very much once again. We're really grateful. Thank you for being here. To every of our facilitators, Mr. Emmanuel, Mr. Damilola, Mrs. Titilope. We're really grateful. So a round of applause in the comment section. You can drop it so as to show our appreciation to our facilitators. All right, so at this junction, we're going to bring the class to a close. So thank you very much once again. See you all in the next class. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. All right, SSA, you can end the call.